Do you want me to do it instead?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is Jesus. This is Jesus' dad. This is Jesus' dad's dad. This is Jesus' dad's dad's dad. Now Luke 3:23, what's that section about?
Jesus was the son of, he was the son of somebody.
Yeah, we get another genealogy in Luke. Okay, now, if Farr's hypothesis is right, if Luke copied Matthew, we'd expect those genealogies to be the same, right? That would support the Farr's hypothesis. However, these genealogies do not go in the same order. To begin with, where does your genealogy start over here?
It starts David, son of Abraham.
No, verse 2.
Oh, Abraham became the father of Isaac.
Right, it goes back to Father Abraham, who had 12 sons who were the 12 tribes of Israel. Or, well, not him, sorry. One of his descendants had the 12 sons. Anyhow, Abraham, father of the Israelite nation. Where does the Luke genealogy start?
He was about 30 years old.
It starts with Jesus and goes backwards. So Matthew starts with Abraham and goes from Abraham to Jesus. Luke starts with Jesus and goes backward to who? You have to skip ahead to the bottom of that passage. Well, no. Before, who is the Son of God there at the end? Adam. Adam and Eve, the first two people, right? Luke says we get from Adam and Eve to Jesus. Matthew goes in reverse, starts with Abraham, and moves forward genealogically to Jesus. Now, on this view, Abraham would be somewhere in the middle after Adam. But for those of you doing... Yeah.
I have a question though. I don't know if it's like just that kind of an example or what, but if there was this queue, then why, you could also just be saying, why wouldn't Matthew include the rest of the timeline to go back to Adam? If it was written down in a separate source.
Wait, I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
Like if that's supposed to prove that Q exists, so that there was more information for Luke to pull, you know, the rest of this out of.
Farr's hypothesis says there is no Q, period.
I know.
Right.
But that's like what I'm saying, is that if there was a Q, then you could just as much say, then why didn't Matthew include the rest of the timeline to go back to Adam? You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Well,
if it was from a source.
Scholars don't
not
think
made
that
up.
the genealogies were in Q. Because Q's just got sayings of Jesus in it. These things were probably not in Q if Q existed. This was probably, according to the fourth source hypothesis, this was part of the M source, and that was part of the L source. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But
no.
that doesn't answer your question, though. There's more to your question that I'm not
Well, it
getting.
was just kind of like a, if it wasn't a separate source that they were both looking at, then why would they be different if they were looking at the same source?
Oh, right, yeah. Well, they just think that that's not from the same source. It's from different sources. Carl?
Is Mark definitely the, like Luke and Matthew both have Mark in it? Why isn't it like Mark?
Nobody thinks that Mark was later. I mean, you could say, well, Mark is shorter than Matthew and Luke, and you could say maybe Mark was an abbreviation of one of the two, and it was later. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm saying, you know how Q is, what was Q when the Jesus healed the sick people or whatever? In our examples?
Yeah.
Why isn't like Jesus walked on water, why couldn't someone have told that to those three guys? Like, you know, does that make any sense?
No.
No? Okay.
Try again. You mean, was there an oral source with that information?
Like, Luke and Matthew have, like, Jesus healed the sick in common. And Matthew, Mark, and Luke all have, he walked on water in common. Why can't that be the cue? And something else, like another cue, be Jesus healed the sick people.
They would say this red stuff can't be from Q because it has to have been from Mark. Right? We know it's in Mark. If they used Mark, then this is from Mark and not from Q.
I'm just asking the question poorly. I can't, I don't know how to ask it. I can't ask it.
Did that not get at your question at all?
No, I'm just thinking of it being a different way, I guess.
Well, part of the problem is that there's about 100 different hypotheses you could come up with to explain who depended on who rather than the other way around. There's a whole bunch of different ways to explain it. So the idea that you could, I'm not sure I understand what other explanation that you're coming up with, but the answer is probably that's probably a plausible explanation that's been proposed before.
Okay. I'll try to think.
Sir, if you think, come up with it. Where we were at though is just that Matthew and Luke recount the genealogies differently. One of them's got it backwards. And Luke goes all the way back to Adam, and Matthew goes all the way only back to Abraham. However, in addition, wait, you guys are looking at Luke? And you guys are looking at Matthew? Okay. Who's before Jesus, according to Matthew? You guys will have to go down to the bottom and work backwards. Who's before Jesus? Joseph. Joseph's the father of Jesus. How about in Luke? Who's before Jesus? Joseph. Same. All right. Next. Who's the father of Joseph?
Jacob.
Who's the father of Joseph? Eli? Yeah, Eli. Right, we only went back 2 generations, and they already are different. Who's the father of, wait, where were you guys at?
Jacob.
Who's the father of Jacob?
Martha.
Who?
Martha.
Marthan. Okay, how about you guys? Okay, next over here.
Ozar.
Okay, over here. Yeah, all right. You guys get the picture, right? Not only are the genealogies in reverse direction, include a different set of names, but also the genealogies are different. They didn't even know who Joseph's father is and agree on that.
Do they
Okay.
ever like meet back up again?
Yeah, they do it a few points. But this poses a problem for which hypothesis?
I think both.
Or for Farr, right? Because if Farr says Luke copied Matthew, then you're like, well, why did he completely screw up the genealogy? Now, is this as much of a problem for the four-source hypothesis? Jenny, you were saying yes?
I think that it doesn't really say anything about another source. It could just be that, they were somehow wrong, or maybe they had, I hate to say like had heard, but whatever, that it was different, or maybe they just got it mixed up. Or couldn't there have possibly been like a language barrier if they were...
But how would that contradict what the four-source hypothesis says?
Well, it wouldn't add to the four-source hypothesis either, because
Right.
if there was a source possibly that could have explained it all correctly, then neither of them were using it, because they're both different.
Didn't follow that last bit.
Like, if there was this other source that, again, this might not be the right example for that information, but that, you know, would have explained certain things and they would have been the same, then why are they different?